Hey everyone, Minith here, back with another comparison video, this time between Big Picture Mode's trackpad and mouse settings and the deck user interface's trackpad and mouse settings, and how to navigate those. So, first up, in order to get to this, in order to have the click and touch, you'll see that while the trackpad behavior is here, click and touch is not. So you kind of do have to enter edit layout in order to get the click and touch commands. Over here you click and the click action is right there, and the touch binding and double tap binding are both here. What's interesting is that the double tap binding is not here, but I'll cover that in a bit more depth in a little bit. So what I really wanted to show though is that when you click into the mouse, immediately all of the settings are here, and you go to additional settings and they're all there. All of the settings across 2 pages. When you open the settings for as mouse, which personally I think as is not needed, it should just be mouse. Otherwise, why not have it be as directional pad, as button pad, etc. That actually has to deal with something that I'll talk about when I get to a video discussing this. But anyway, as mouse, you click on the gear, and you're presented with some settings, but you're not presented with nearly as many. And again, big picture mode, it does all settings in 2 screens. Meanwhile, in the deck user interface, it does it all in 5 screens. And this is where I get a little bit confused and annoyed, because haptics is a single setting, and trigger dampening, once you actually do that, it pops up with the second setting. But trigger dampening, it's more or less a 1 setting menu as well. I don't see why haptics couldn't be in general and trigger dampening couldn't be in output. You could kind of view trigger dampening as being smoothing adjacent, I suppose. But that would reduce the overall number of tabs down to 3, general output and trackpad. And what's interesting, I mentioned the double tap binding earlier. You can see the double tap duration and double tap beep are still available to adjust. However, again, when you go back, the double tap command isn't there. Now, what's really interesting about this is that if you have a configuration in big picture mode that uses the double tap binding, let me go ahead and back out of this to show you, it will actually pop up in the deck user interface. So let me quickly open my No Man's Sky configuration up. Oh, I might have to close out of that too. So hold on 1 second. No Man's Sky configuration, go to edit layout, go to on foot, trackpads, and as you can see, the double tap does actually pop up if you configured the double tap binding in big picture mode. It just doesn't have an icon like touch or click does. I think a good icon for a double tap would be if the touch had another ring kind of in there to show that it's got 2 on it. I think that would be a good icon. So the binding slot is there, it just doesn't show up unless you have it bound in big picture mode first. So let me kind of get back out of that real quick and bring back up the ultra kill settings, because I did want to show a little bit more of what's going on here. Edit layout, trackpads, settings. Now, some things changed that I noticed. I would have to bring up a much older configuration, but ever since they started messing with Steam input for the deck, it's also changed how some settings work for the Steam controller in big picture mode. Before, my ideal rotation value would be about 3 ticks away from maximum. Now it's much closer to the default. We can see that. Where exactly is it in the trackpad settings? Go away. Output rotation. So I guess the deck user interface considers it a value of 23 now, as opposed to 0.628. So that's a thing. So the rotation value changed, so you're going to have to redo your rotation value if you did those before. Sensitivity also changed. That was much more recent. I'm not sure exactly when the change happened, but before in my ultra kill configuration, I would have this maxed out in big picture mode. And you can see in here that correlates to 1000%. And now it's no longer maxed out. It pops it down. This leads me to think that maybe they changed something such that the Steam controller's trackpads can go even higher on their sensitivity, which is really interesting because of how I tune my trackpad mouse. That'll be another video later on down the line, though. But that's really about it. Sensitivity, vertical scale. Again, they've done all this stuff. Now, I don't want to be completely negative, even though I don't like how this is 5 pages versus big picture mode's 2 pages. One thing I do think the deck user interface has done incredibly well. If I click on this, see how I just have to kind of do this. If I click here, it brings up this, and you can actually type in. So that is a good thing in my opinion, and I'm going to have to redo it over here just to make sure it doesn't. I believe it's right there. Let me double check. 225. No, up one more. Boom. Yep, 250, and that correlates to 50 in the deck user interface. So that's kind of the differences. The scales are now different between the sliders, so you're going to have to kind of convert and figure out your new settings that way. But thankfully, in the deck user interface, you can do text input now for all of the sliders. And that is very good. I very much appreciate that. I would still like to see, more advanced features, but that'll be another topic for another day. Anyway, this was the trackpad mouse comparison. I hope you found it useful. I'm not really comparing the clicks anymore. I'm just comparing the user interfaces just in a more how you would use them, where you would find certain things. So anyway, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye.